Alright, this is lesson 37 for 8th grade, and today we're talking about the area of combined polygons. Remember, polygons is just a fancy word for shapes with many angles, okay? So lots of different side lengths and all that. We're going to show you that we can find area of some kind of irregular shapes. Alright, here are the things we're going to be using. We're going to use the area of a rectangle, area of a triangle, the Pythagorean theorem. We're going to do some estimation, and we're going to use midpoint, at least in the examples that we talked about today. But these are all things that we know. So today is nothing new, except for the fact that we might have to manipulate these shapes to factor these things in. So just be aware that maybe something looks a little confusing at first, but if we manipulate it a little bit, we can find some tools that we can use that we already know. Alright? So we'll have to do some exploring. And just as a note, we are going to be using lots of prior knowledge, which I basically just pointed out. And we're going to use it to find the areas of different shapes. And some of these take some thought, and we have to use some tricks. We're going to take a look at 3 main examples here. Okay. So in class, we're going to work with the people around us, discuss how we find the area of this figure, and then find it. Well, this is actually a trapezoid, and later on in the year, we will find there's a formula to find this out, but we haven't talked about it yet. So what we're going to have to do is manipulate this thing so that we can find it, and we want to break it up into some shapes that we know. For instance, if I drop a line down this way, we have a rectangle and we have a triangle, okay? Now, this whole thing is 8 centimeters, but from here to here, that says we have 6. So I'm going to change that to 6 centimeters. But we know this then has to be 2 centimeters because 8 is our whole thing and 6 plus 2 is 8, okay? That's a right angle. This is 4 centimeters, so this is 4 centimeters. Okay? So we have 2 areas now. We have the area of a rectangle, which is length times width. And then we have the area of a triangle, which is 1/2 base times height. Or base times height divided by 2. Okay? So let's kind of label what we know here. I'm going to keep this dark. So here's our rectangle. We use black for that. Let's use blue for our triangle since we wrote the formula down in blue. So we've got, we'll split this down the middle a little bit here. About right there, triangle about right here. Alright, so they do share that common side, but I'm just trying to point out what we have here. So for length and width, it looks like we have a length of 6 centimeters and a width of 4. So we're just going to plug those in. 6 times 4, we should get 24 centimeters squared since we're talking area. Okay? Now, we want to find our base and height of our triangle. It's a right angle. Remember, the base and the height make a right angle with each other. So we can go 1/2. Looks like our base is 2 times 2. And then times our height, which is 4. So I would call this height, which is also the width of our rectangle. Alright, so we've got 1/2 times 8. 2 times 4 is 8. And half of 8 is 4. So we have 4 centimeters squared. So now what we want to do is we want to add this and this together to get our full area. We found the area of this rectangle, we found the area of this triangle. If we add them together, we should get the full area, and if we do that, 24 plus 4 is 28 centimeters squared. And we aren't centimeters squared or units squared because we're talking area. Alright, so that's a pretty basic one that we're starting off with. They get more challenging as we go. But you can see, at first we might not have known what to do until we did some manipulating. So that's what it's going to take. It's kind of like a puzzle. We got to figure out what our next step's going to be in order to move on. And if everything was easy, it wouldn't be that fun. So we got to make things a little challenging. Okay, now some of our words here. We get to use a calculator and we get to estimate the area of this. They call it a lot. Must be a parking lot or something. So off the bat again, we're not really sure, but it is another trapezoid. Looks like we could take and bring a line up here. So we have a rectangle, and then this is 100 feet, and then this is 60, and 100. Okay. So we could find the area of that rectangle right away, so let's just do that. Area of the rectangle equals length times width, and our length is 100, and our width is 60. So that is 100 times 60, looks like it's going to be 6,000 feet squared. So, well, let's not circle that. That's not our final answer. That's the area of our rectangle, and we've got that taken care of. Okay. We'll just underline it. Alright, so there's our rectangle area. Now we have to find the area of our triangle. Remember, the triangle then again is area equals 1/2 base times height. So remember, base and height make a right angle with each other. This is going to be our base right here because it makes a right angle with this, which is our height. Okay? So we have a height, we don't have our base. And the problem is we don't have a way to figure out our base with this side because it stops here at 60. All I know is that here it is 60. They do give us this length, and if we notice something, if I pull this triangle out here, let's just take this and bring it down here. We have a triangle, a right triangle, won't be the same size. Height equals 100. This is the base, and this is 110. So we have a right triangle. And remember how I said we're going to use some stuff we already know? Well, we have a right triangle, and one of our sides is missing. That means we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to figure it out. Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay? Now, it just happens to be a coincidence that this is named base. But remember, A and B are the two legs, or the ones that are attached by a right angle. So A or B, doesn't matter which one. And C is the one opposite the right angle, or the one that's the hypotenuse. Okay? So 110 should be our longest side. We should expect B to be shorter than 110. So I'm going to call this A. I'm going to call this C. We'll leave that as B. So 100 squared plus B squared, we don't know what that is, equals 110 squared. So I'm going to kind of section that off there. Okay? Now it says we get to use our calculator. We shouldn't need to for these ones. I'll show you when we will need it. But 100 squared is 100 times 100, so that's going to be 4 zeros. So 10,000 plus b squared equals, and this should be what? 112,100, I think. 110 squared. Yep. 12,100. 110 times 110. 12,100. Now we're trying to solve for b squared, and we want just b. So I'm going to subtract 10,000 from both sides. I don't really need a calculator, but I did that anyway. So if we subtract this from both sides, we'll get b squared equals 2100. Or 2,100. So what we're finding out then is b squared is 12,000 or 2,100. Remember to solve for b when we have it being squared. We do this. We take the square root, and we get b equals the square root of that. And we won't get something very nice probably, so I'll use my calculator. Second square root of that. 45.83 about. So it's about 45.83. So they said we get to round. So I'm going to take 45.83 and I'm going to round that up to 46. Okay? So now we have a base. It's taking us a lot to figure this out, but we finally have a missing piece here. 46. So let's put that into what we need, which is our triangle formula for area. And now we have 1/2 times 46 is our base, times our height, which is 100. And we can go from there. So we could get half of 46, which is 23, times 100 should equal 2,200. So if we add, this will be feet squared, add this with this, we should get our answer, 8,300 feet squared. Let's make sure we got that correct here. Got my book right here. Yep, we are correct. 8,300 feet squared. So, a problem that takes a lot of work just to find one piece in order to get the whole thing. Alright, we're running close here. And we got one more example to go through, so I may try to go through it quick. This one took a lot of thinking. That's how it goes. Alright. I may put this one on the next one, so there will be a part 2. So just stay tuned.